Hello and welcome to another episode of the Landscaper Growth Show. My name is Mark Lamberth. I'm your host. Today I'm speaking with Sam Kibler at Alpine Landscaping, LLC, here in Colorado Springs, just south of us. Sam, thanks so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, so looks like just amazing work that you guys are up to. You guys are highly rated, beautiful photos of your work on the site. I'd love to start just by hearing what services you provide for your customers in the Springs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we like to provide basically everything that we can get our hands on without having to pull permits, like permitting for gas lines, electrical, things like that. Outside of those, we like to offer a bit of everything. So, paver patios, retaining walls, fireplaces, fire pits, veneer walls, block walls, just everything in between of that, and retention walls, and a lot of the outdoor living aspects. So, barbecues, outdoor kitchens, and stuff of that nature. So, and then new builds. So, if you're moving into a new build, there's nothing, there's just dirt. We like to bring our designer on site and really just blow that up and listen to the customer and get their vision and bring it to life.
Amazing. So it's hardscaping. Are you guys dealing with plants at all?
Yeah. So we do a lot of plantings, shrubs, trees, perennials,
Okay.
things like that. We definitely do all of that.
Okay. Fantastic. And it's you and your wife started the company, Becca?
Yeah. Yep. Actually, yeah. So me and my wife, Rebecca, started it about 4 years ago. Yeah, and it's been working out really well. We've been landscaping for about, I don't know, 18 years, and it came to a time where I just wanted to do it myself, once we got enough experience under our belt. The hardest part of it was trying to figure out how to price everything. You can build it, but when you started going on your own, it's like, well, how do I charge this? So it's been a battle, but uphill battle, but definitely working out.
Man, I love it. How many folks do you have on the team right now?
We have 15 employees right now.
Okay. Man, amazing.
Thank you.
Great. And then what service area do you guys work in? How far around the Springs?
So we spread ourselves pretty wide in Colorado. If the job is, big enough and it's worth it, we'll go all the way out to Granby, Colorado, Breckenridge, Colorado, Alma, things like that. But our main area is going to be, Castle Pines, south of that, going all the way down to, Fountain, sometimes Pueblo, and then we go all the way to Falcon, sometimes Callahan, and then obviously as far west as we can. We really like to be a traveling landscape company as well and kind of bring our custom creations to everyone that, kind of wants us to work for them.
Man.
So a wide range.
Okay. How did you decide to get into this niche? I mean, you say 17 years ago or so
Yeah.
landscaping, and then it's moved into more of the hardscaping stuff, or how has that
Yeah.
progression
So
happened?
I grew up in Wisconsin and I started landscaping when I was about 16. And really over there, they don't have much more than, retaining walls, patios. You don't need irrigation. You don't need anything really to water. So that was new. They didn't have artificial grass. So that was new. But basically, to answer your question, I came in from just kind of knowing the nitty gritty of the landscaping, just stuff to, pavers, retaining walls. And when I moved to Colorado, I knew how to build it, but I wasn't sure on, how to charge it, like I was saying, or how to, you know, get customers to kind of make me appealing to them. And so it was a struggle in the beginning, but I always knew I wanted to be a landscaper and not necessarily a laborer and a worker. I knew that I would wanted to start my own business because I just wanted to build it. I thought it was fun. Some of the stuff isn't as fun as others. Building walls and patios are one of my favorite things to build. But yeah, moving into Colorado, I started seeing a lack of quality, a lack of really caring what their people are doing. I started working in a concrete yard selling block to people, and I just started seeing the need for somebody that really wants to take this and roll with it and have a professional company. And not many people really knew a lot of the hardscaping. A lot of people knew, shrubs and grass and irrigation, but it takes a certain type of landscaper that knows how to build a really nice patio or water feature or retaining wall. And so one day I was working for a landscape company. He came into, well, long story short, he came into the rock yard, saw some potential in me, and I ended up working for this landscape company. And after in the winter time, he was slow and he laid me off, and I was like, this is the perfect time to go ahead and create an LLC and really just jump in the deep end of the pool. And then I created Alpine Landscaping, and me and my wife were there in the beginning just doing everything ourselves. I didn't have any employees. I did everything myself, buy anywhere from just buying my first shovel to buying my first laser transit to renting trucks, or not renting trucks, switching my SUV in for a truck, and then slowly renting a demo saw, renting a compactor, not having any of this stuff. I didn't own any of it. I wasn't given any money to buy these things, so I had to work my way up to being able to initiate jobs, to being able to have the trust with customers, able to give me bigger jobs, and then I saved my money up to be able to buy things instead of renting things. And I don't want to ramble too much, but yeah, so then it kind of transpired into what it is now.
I love it, man. What a cool story. So, Sam, you guys have got some, I mean, you guys do incredible projects. I've taken a look at your site, right? Been all over it, taking a look at your portfolio. I mean, beautiful, beautiful work. So,
Thank you.
if someone is starting in this business and they are wanting to get into kind of hardscaping, any tips on, like, I mean, how do you quote a, big project? I mean, these are like big, expensive, 5-figure projects, maybe 6-figure projects, beyond, whatever. How do you go about? I mean, they're all unique, right? You've got unique landscape, unique, topography on the property. How do you go about quoting that so you end up profitable at the end of the day?
Well, there are obviously some days that you screw up. You really got to kind of mess up before you start learning. And you don't want to do that too much, or else you're just not learning. Maybe you're in the wrong business. But, it took some questioning. When I was working for my old boss, I was asking him a little bit of questions, not to get down and dirty with his pricing, but also just for when I jump out of the deep end, I'm not so dumb on what's the average cost for these things. A lot of times what I would recommend to business owners or people that are trying to get into the bigger projects like we are, it's not always a square footage pricing. It's always figuring out how much material you're going to be, really being accurate on the estimate of how much material you're going to need. So road base, block, how much poly sand, how much edging, how much all of this stuff, and not forgetting anything. I sometimes you'd forget, to quote poly sand or paver edging or things like that. And you learn quick because you didn't budget for that. And then at the end of the job, you're like, man, oh my God, I didn't charge for this. So after several jobs of kind of just misquoting, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, I started figuring out, it's going to be my time. It's going to be how many days my employees are going to be usually on that job site. Fuel, insurance, all of this stuff needs to be taken into consideration. And then I just do material with how many days. So I add my labor, and then I want to add my piece of the pie in that as well, and make it happen. So, a lot of these big jobs, square footing pricing is just not going to be good for you because you might lose your butt on it. I always make sure that I know exactly how much material I'm going to be buying, how much that material is going to cost me, how many hours are going to be on that job, how many men are going to be on that job, is there overtime, fuel, and then I ball that all into one big number. And then of course I add, approximately 30% to my charge on top of that, and I make it happen from there. But it takes some dialing in. You definitely have to dial in your craft to make sure you're making money. And when I say that, I mean dialing in exactly what you need for that project.
So, regarding growing a business like yours, I mean, you guys are highly rated. You guys got a ton of 5-star reviews. Inevitably, grow the business a lot by referrals. Are there any other channels that you guys have used to kind of grow the business? I mean, any type of radio, TV, local advertising at all, or is it all word of mouth?
So yeah, we do LSA quite a bit. You're going to be your best friend, and same with SEO. If you're just not online, you're just not going to be seen. Of course, we upload pictures and videos up to Facebook. We try to do TikTok. I'm not much of a social media TikTok kind of guy, but my media people really want us to be more present with the videos, trying to be funny. I feel like I'm not funny when I'm trying to be purposeful for it, so it just goes down. But yeah, so we do a lot of LSA. So that's going to be, you run a background check, you get, you run your insurance through Google, you have all this stuff kind of uploaded to the system, and then you become sort of a trusted vendor through Google. And when you look up landscaping, you'll be right up on the top. So that has helped us quite a bit. Google ads quite a bit, but now, that was what we did in the beginning to get us out there. Now it's becoming more referrals, like you had mentioned, so we got to the point where we get phone calls. A lot of the stuff is coming in organically, but in the beginning, you bet we had to hustle and get out there and spend a lot of money on marketing. In Colorado Springs, there's almost 800 landscape companies. So, you really got to do something right. You really got to be loud to make something known, and you really just got to keep your quality and your word to customers. So, yes, we do use a lot, but we don't use as many as the tools that are out there. That's for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you've got 15 people on your team here, 15 employees. There's always the landscaping, the green industry, piece about like, what do you do in the winter, right? I mean, there's like kind of snow removal piece. We're here in Colorado. How do you guys handle that? I mean, it gets really cold, not doing a lot of landscaping. How do you guys deal with the winters?
Jackets. Buy 'em jackets. Yeah. So, and that might be funny, but it's quite literal. We work all year round. Last year, we took maybe 6 days off for the snow. Really? Last year, of course, was super weird. A lot of Colorado listeners might know that, the winter just wasn't here. But yeah, we do hardscaping. We just push off the shrubs, the plants. We do install trees, but anything that's really sensitive, we don't put in. We install our irrigation still. We just don't turn that on. We dig holes in the ground still, so it's easier for us to go and throw these shrubs in there in the springtime, because we'll do 5 or 6 jobs in the months that are super cold and have all the rock, all the insulation, all the fabric down. But the last thing we want to do is ruin a bunch of landscaping by digging holes later on. So we have augers and things like that. But we thought about getting into the snow removal. We thought about all that stuff. Again, there's so much competition out there that you really got to lower your numbers. So sometimes it's not making much sense. But if you get the commercial projects, then you're in. Snow removal for just residential isn't the most beneficial for us personally. So we downsize just a little bit, maybe to about 10 guys. Of course, we just have some summer workers, people that are okay with doing that for the summer. But we also want to make sure that my hard workers, the guys that have been there for years, they continue to have hours through the wintertime. So, and then when there is snow, I do have friends that, run snow businesses, run snow removal companies. So they ended up going to them so they can accumulate more hours when it snows. But when it doesn't snow, we're back out there digging holes.
Amazing. And then, Sam, do you quote all your jobs? Do you have someone else going out doing that?
Yep, I do everything myself. Yep, I do all the quoting myself. Becca, she helps a lot. Our designer, she brings, we'll send our designer to these job sites. She'll scale it all up to what the homeowner wants. She'll send it over to me for the, the approval. We'll make sure we go back and forth with the homeowner, either in person or Zoom call. And then we submit that to either Becca. She'll be able to read off the plot plan and the blueprints, and she'll create it. Or I go ahead and do that. If I go out to the job site and it's a simple build, a couple kitchens, maybe, some flagstone patios, whatever have you, then I'll take that and I'll do the quotes for that as well. But I'm the one in the field visiting the homeowners, visiting the customers, being kind of the face of the company to try to sell the job. Yes.
Oh, man. Awesome. Well, fantastic, Sam. If folks are in the Colorado Springs area and looking for a great landscaping company to work with, what are the best ways to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on Facebook, Alpine Landscaping LLC in Colorado Springs. And then you can reach me on email at sam@alpinelandscapingllc.com, or you can contact me directly at 719-304-6023.
Love it. Okay, fantastic. Great. Yes. Well, they've got great photos on their website of all the work that they've done. You can get in touch with Sam at alpinelandscapingllc.com, or reach out to him at 719-304-6023. It's a great story and it's fun. We love Colorado Springs. Spend a lot of time down there, and man, I just love that you got a thriving business down in the Springs. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing the story of the business today, Sam. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you very much for inviting me.